This is the fourth and final presentation for this weekend camp meeting.
Isifundo sesine lesi nesogcina kule camp meeting le.
Let's open with a word of prayer.
Singavula ngezwi lomkhuleko.
Lord our God, we thank you
uNkulunkulu wethu siyakubonga
your continual watch care and your goodness over your people.
ukuthi usinakekele nokulunga kwakho phezu kwethu.
Even when we lose our direction, you are faithful to call us back.
Noma sesingasahambi endleleni uthembekile ukuthi usibuyise.
Like a shepherd always gathering their sheep.
Njengomalusi biza ebuyisa izimvu zakhe.
As we see events fulfilling before our eyes,
Njengoba sibona le zigameko zenzeka phambi kwamehlo wethu.
we thank you that you give us visibility of what is happening.
Siyabonga ukuthi uNkulunkulu uyasibonisa lokwenzakalayo.
So that we can be ready and prepared for the Sunday law.
Sikwazi ukulungela iSunday law.
Help each of us to be faithful and true, both personally and collectively.
Ncede ukuthi sithembeke ngamunye ngamunye noma sisonke.
May this be our individual and combined prayer.
Ngathi ngaba umkhuleko omunye nomunye nathi sisonke.
In Jesus' name, amen.
Ngegama likaJesu, amen.
In our study yesterday,
Esifundweni sethu izolo
we spoke about the issue of the executive branch.
siye sakhuluma ke ngale ndaba le ye-executive branch noma isihlalo sikamongameli.
And the great efforts that are being made by the Republican Party
Nale msebenzi omkhulu owenziwa i-Republican Party
to ensure that they get their person in that office.
ukuthi ke bazama ukufaka umuntu wabo kuleso sihlalo.
Despite other information that we have,
Noma ke sinalo lolunye ulwazi lolu,
considering the great amount of work that's being undertaken,
ukubona ke lo msebenzi lo owenzakalayo,
this effort that's being made by the Republicans should be enough evidence for us
lento ezama ukwenzwa ama-Republican kumele ke kube ubufakazi obuphelele kithi
to point out to us the prophetic significance of winning that office.
ukuthi size sibone ke ukubaluleka ukuthi banqobe leso sihlalo leso.
Something that was mentioned in the article yesterday and that I have mentioned several times in the past
Into ke eyashiwo kulo mbhalo wayizolo nento engivama ukuyisho nje esikhathini esidlulile
is the subject of the supermajority.
ile ndaba ke ye-super majority.
So it's composed of two words, a majority, which we all understand,
Yakho ke amagama amabili lawa ukuthi majority noma iningi.
but it's not just the majority, which is more than 50%. It's something more.
Akusi iningi nje kuphela elidlula i-50% ingaphezu kwaloko futhi.
In the United States,
eMelika ke
when it comes to making laws,
uma ke kuzokhandwa imithetho,
then the supermajority is 2/3.
i-super majority lena ke kumele ke ibe
67%.
amathird amathathu noma i-67%.
On other matters,
Kwezinye iy'ndaba ke
For instance, the filibuster,
uma senza umzekelo nge-filibuster.
and I'm not going to define what that means,
Ake ngichaze-ke ukuthi isho ukuthini leyo nto.
but that only requires 3/5 or 60%.
Lokho-ke kudingeka ukuhlukana kwama-3/5 noma
To pass a law,
i-60%.
just requires a simple majority of 51%.
Uma-ke ufuna ukudlulisa umthetho kudingeka nje iningi nje noma i-majority ye-51%.
Now, did you correct yourself or did you just translate what I said? Okay. So there are different types of majorities.
Kuba-ke nama-majority ahlukene.
I want to just continue our thought on the necessity of winning the executive branch.
Ngifuna-ke ukuqhubekisa lo mcabango-ke wokubaluleka kokuthi kunqotshwe le-executive branch isihlalo
So I'm
sikamongameli.
hoping this will be straightforward and understandable.
Ngiyathemba-ke ukuthi izoba lula futhi izwisiseke
When
lento.
a law is written,
Uma-ke umthetho ubhalwa phansi,
we already discussed that the branch that does that is the legislature.
siye sakhuluma-ke sathi i-branch noma igatsha kahulumeni elikwenzayo lokho yi-legislature.
Primarily, it's Congress. Sorry, not Congress,
Kakhulu
it's the
kakhulu
House.
kakhulu singasho sithi kuyi-house.
Congress is composed of two houses, a lower and an upper house.
I-Congress-ke ihlukana kabili, kuba i-house ephansi ne-house ephezulu.
The House of Representatives and the Senate.
Kuba i-House of Representatives ne-Senate.
So it's the work of the House of Representatives primarily to write law.
Umsebenzi-ke we-House of Representatives ukuthi babhale imithetho.
If they pass with a simple majority,
Uma-ke leyo mthetho leyo iphumelela ngokuba noma ukuthola
that
i-majority.
law that's been passed then gets sent to the Senate
Lo mthetho-ke osuphasiwe-ke udlulisiwe uthunyelwa kwi-Senate.
for review and oversight.
La uyobhekisiswa kahle-ke ulungiswe.
They vote.
Bona-ke bazovota nabo.
There is a simple majority that agrees with the House, the law is passed.
Nabo-ke uma uningi labo livumelana nalo mthetho uzophumelela
But
ke
there's
lo
a
mthetho.
second check or a second balance to this process.
Kodwa khona-ke okunye okugada lo msebenzi
The
lo.
executive branch, the president specifically,
I-executive branch noma umongameli
has to accept and agree with that law.
kumele-ke awamukele futhi avumelane nawo lo
And
mthetho.
only after the president signs that law does it become the law of the land.
Kusemva ukuthi-ke awusayine awuvumele lo mthetho upresident la uzophumelela-ke kube
There are
umthetho
two steps:
osebenzayo. Kunale nyathelo lezi
the
ezimbili-ke.
legislature, Congress, and then the president, the executive branch.
Kuba yi-legislature, i-Congress, bese kuba umongameli.
And the first step is in two parts, the House and the Senate.
Lesi sokuqala-ke isinyathelo sihlukana kabili naso kuba i-House ne-Senate.
Now, unlike other countries,
Kuyahluka-ke namanye amazwe,
the person who is the head of the executive branch, the president,
umuntu-ke lo ophethe i-executive branch noma umongameli
doesn't have to be of the same party as the majority of Congress.
akusimpoqo-ke ukuthi abe kwi-party eyodwa noningi eliku-Congress.
And Congress itself, which is in two parts, they don't have to be the same majority party in either house.
nabo-ke kwi-Congress-ke akusimpoqo ukuthi babe yiphathi elilodwa ku-majority kokubili
So the
kulama house
representatives could
omabili.
be Democrats, the Senate could be Republicans, and the president could be something completely different, but it almost always is one of those two parties.
Kungenzeka-ke i-House of Representatives ibe ama-Democrats, i-Senate ibe ama-Republican, umongameli yena abe enye iphathi nje. Kodwa-ke esikhathini esiningi kuba phakathi kwalawo maphathi amabili.
So if there were three major parties in the United States and there is not, you could have three different parties in those three separate areas.
Mabe kunamaphathi amathathu eMelika bungaba namaphathi ahlukene nje abambe lezo zikhundla lezi ezintathu.
Most countries don't operate that way.
Emazweni amaningi akusebenzi kanjalo.
Now, if the president does not agree with the law that's been passed,
Manje-ke uma umongameli engavumelani nalomthetho-ke so uphasisiwe.
say if Congress is Democratic and the president is Republican,
Mhlambe kuyenzeka ukuthi i-Congress ama-Democrats bese umongameli yena abe
president doesn't agree
yi-Republican.
with the law that's been written,
Bese-ke angavumelani nalomthetho usubhaliwe.
president rejects that law and it doesn't go into force.
Angawuvumeli-ke lowo mthetho-ke bese awukwazi ukuthi ungasebenza.
It dies.
Uyafa-ke lowo mthetho.
So there is no recourse for Congress to exercise its will.
Bese-ke i-Congress ayikwazi-ke ukuthi ingayenza intando yayo.
However, there is a way for Congress to do that, to exercise its will against the president.
Kodwa-ke ikhona indlela lapho-ke i-Congress ingayenza intando yayo iphikisana president noma umongameli.
It's through the supermajority clause.
Kwenzeka lokhu-ke uma banalento ekuthiwa yi-supermajority.
So if each house in Congress has a supermajority,
Uma-ke kuma-house omabili ku-Congress bane
and the law
supermajority,
is passed via that supermajority,
bese lo mthetho-ke phasiswa ngayo leyo supermajority.
it doesn't matter what the president thinks, whether a president agrees or disagrees with the law, it goes into force.
Akunandaba ukuthi uyavuma noma akavumi upresident, uyaqhubeka nje lo mthetho-ke uba umthetho.
Of course, if Congress between the two houses don't agree with each other, it's dead anyway.
Uma-ke kodwa-ke Congress bengavumelani bobabili lama-house la amabili awuphumeleli
I'm
uyafa
assuming
nje
that
lo
is
mthetho.
all straightforward and you all understand.
Ngiyacabanga-ke ukuthi lokho kulula kakhulu futhi niyangizwisisa
If you want
nonke.
to bypass the executive branch,
Uma ufuna-ke ukudlula umongameli,
you need to have two houses
funeka-ke unqobe lama-house omabili
and you need to have a supermajority in both houses.
bese uba ne-supermajority kuwo womabili lawo ma-house.
And then you can ignore the president.
Bese-ke ungakwazi ukuthi uzibe noma wenze uphikisana
However,
no-president.
to gain a supermajority in both houses is very difficult.
Kodwa-ke kunzima kakhulu ukuthi ungathola i-supermajority kuma-house omabili.
The last time that happened was 55 years ago.
Leyo nto-ke yagcina ukwenzeka eminyakeni ewu-55 edlulile.
It hasn't happened in the lifetime of many of us, and certainly not in the lifetime of this movement.
Akayenzeki ey'mpilweni zabaningi bethu la futhi nokuphila noma usuku
So
lwaka
if
lo
you want a
movement.
Sunday law without the executive branch, you need a supermajority in both houses.
Uma-ke ufuna ukuletha i-Sunday law ngaphandle ko-president kufuneka ube ne-supermajority kuma-house omabili.
Either way, the only way that's going to happen
Indlela nje ukuthi yenzeke leyo nto
is through this gerrymandering.
Ukuthi ungayenza ke leyo nto ngale nto ekuthiwa i-gerrymandering.
Remember gerrymandering is redrawing the district lines.
Ungakhohlwa ke ukuthi le nto ekuthiwa i-gerrymandering uma ushintsha amamephu nama-district.
It's the theory that we discussed yesterday, ISL.
Ile nto ke sisakhuluma ngayo izolo kuthiwa i-ISL.
Independent State Legislature.
Ile nto ukuthi independent state legislature.
So I just want to look at some history, very simply, to discuss this issue of supermajority.
Manje ke ngifuna ukubuka ke umlando ke ukuthi ngikwazi ukuchaza le nto le supermajority.
If you want to guarantee success,
Uma ke ufuna ukwazi kahle impela ukuthi uzophumelela,
I will call it cheating. Other people will call it doing the right thing.
Mina ke ngizoyibiza ke ubugebengu, abanye abantu bangasho bathi ukwenza into ekuyiyona.
You have to bend the rules.
Kumele ke uphule imithetho.
Otherwise, you can't guarantee having the executive branch, or you cannot guarantee having a supermajority.
Ngoba ke angeke ukwazi ukuthi ungaba mhlambe ne-executive branch noma i-supermajority ngokuphelele.
Without one of the two, you will not have a Sunday law.
Uma ke ungenazo phakathi kwalezo ezimbili angeke ukwazi ukuba
And the
ne-Sunday
only
law.
way that's going to happen
But
is by this manipulation of how the voting works in the United States.
Indlela yokuthi ke kungenzeka lokhu uma ke ushintsha noma uthinta noma indlela yokuthi kuvotwa kanjani
So you
eMelika.
need to have understood and absorbed yesterday's study in order to understand how significant what is going on today really is.
Funeka ke ubuzwisisile isifundo sayizolo ukuze ukwazi ukubona ke ukuthi baluleke kangakanani le nto yenzeka eMelika namhlanje.
So for the past 200 years,
Manje ke kule minyaka edlulile u-200,
the United States has been a two-party system.
iMelika ke bilokhu iqhutshwa yilama qembu noma amaphathi amabili.
Democrats and Republicans.
Ama-Democrat nama-Republican.
And during this history,
Manje ke kuwo lo mlando lo
which is, let me make sure I get my maths correct.
awuthi yenzeke ukuthi imaths yami iqonde kahle iy'balo zami.
It's over 160 years of data.
Kuyidatha ke le engaba mhlambe iminyaka engaba 166.
168, I believe.
Ngiyacabanga ukuthi ku-168.
So we're going to review 168 years of history,
Manje sizobheka ke umlando weminyaka engaba yi-168.
which is going to be from 1865 to 2022.
Siyosuka ke ku-1865 siyofika ku-2022.
Plus or minus a year.
Ngafaka noma ukhiphe ke unyaka owodwa lapho.
Okay, so we're going to look at which years there was a supermajority.
Sizobheka ke ukuthi yemiphi iminyaka la siyithola khona i-supermajority.
Not just in one house, but both houses.
Hayi nje kwi-house eyi-one kodwa komabili ama-house.
Now, when the American system marks the government,
Uma ke le ndlela ke kusebenza eseMelika iqala uhulumeni.
it's going to mark, it uses a term called the US Congress.
ibiza ngale gama lokuthi-ke i-Congress yaseMelika.
And that cycle is different to the presidential cycle.
Manje-ke indlela ehamba ngayo le nto yohulumende ayifani
So
nebumongameli.
the House of Representatives is on a 2-year cycle.
I-House of Representatives yona-ke inqamuka ngeminyaka emibili.
The Senate is on a 6-year cycle.
I-Senate yona-ke inqamuka ngeminyaka ewu-6.
Which is a little bit complicated because it's actually still a 2-year cycle.
Ekuyinto-ke engathi iyabhida kancane kodwa nayo inokuhlukana
I've
ngeminyaka
discussed that in
emibili.
a previous study. I can't remember when it was, but I go into the details of how that process works.
Ngike ngakhuluma ngayo-ke leyo nto nokuthi isebenza kanjani kwisifande esidlulile, angisasikhumbule siphi.
And then the presidential cycle, which is a 4-year cycle.
Bese-ke ubumongameli bona-ke buhlukana ngeminyaka emine.
And it all happens on an even year.
Konke lokho-ke kuyenzeka-ke kunyaka o-even.
So we understand the difference between even and odd for the translators.
Ngiyathemba-ke siyazwisisa umehluko phakathi kwama-even number nama-odd number laba abatolikayo.
So just to clarify, even is 2, 4, 6, 8. Odd is 1, 3, 5, 7. So we understand what terms it is.
Ngicacisa-ke even i-2, 4, 6, 8.
So
I-odd yona
we're going to
i-1,
look
3,
at the US
5,
Congress
7.
cycle, which is every 2 years.
Sizobheka-ke lokuhamba loku kwe-Congress okushintshashintsha ngeminyaka emibili.
And it's given a number.
Bese-ke inikezwa nenombolo.
Now, we're not going to go to the very beginning.
Manje-ke angeke sibuyele emuva kweyokuqala kuqala.
But we're going to look at 117 US Congresses.
Manje-ke sizobheka ama-US Congress ayi-117, ayi-117.
The 117th is the current one.
Ebuyi-117-ke yile esikuyo khona manje.
So if you look at all the Congresses, only 7 of them have had supermajorities.
Make ubuka-ke wonke lama-Congress lawa ayi-7 nje kuphela ake aba nama-supermajority.
So 7 of the 117 have been supermajorities.
Ke nje awu-7 phakathi kwalawa ayi-117 la sithola khona i-supermajority.
I'm going to give you the year and I'm going to give you the Congress number.
Ngizokunikeza-ke unyaka bese nginikeze nenombolo yaleyo Congress.
And all you need to do is go onto Wikipedia and you can get all the details you want and verify all the numbers.
Bese-ke wena into ongayenza ungaya ku-Wikipedia bese uthola lonke lolo lwazi ubone zonke lezi zinto engisho.
So
Manje-ke
we have the 39th Congress.
kuba ne-Congress ye-39.
And that was 1865,
Leyo-ke yayisuka ngo-1865
1867.
kuyofika ku-1867.
And that was Republican.
Yayiqhutshwa-ke ama-Republican.
Republicans had a supermajority, which means we're talking about both houses, not just one. In both houses, in the 39th Congress, which is the years 1865 to 1867, 2-year period.
Ama-Republican-ke bewane-supermajority kwama-house womabili e-Congress kule 39th Congress kusukela ngo-1865 kuya ku-1867.
For those of you who are keeping up and are not just listening,
Kulabo-ke abalandelayo abangalalelanga nje kuphela,
you'll have noted a discrepancy.
uzobona-ke ukuthi kunento engathi iyaphikisa lapho.
I said the election cycle is in even years And I've given you odd years here.
Ngithe-ke ama-election ahamba kwiminyaka yama-even number kodwa la ngikuphe inombolo eyi-odd number.
It's because the election is at the end of an even year, November,
Ingoba-ke kuvotwa ekupheleni kwalo nyaka ku-even.
and then for a couple of months, there is a holding period, a
Bese-ke
waiting period,
kudlula inyanganyana lapho-ke kuba nesikhathi sokulinda.
and the new Congress goes into effect the following year, in the odd year.
Bese-ke le Congress entsha-ke izoqala ukusebenza lo nyaka olandelayo o-odd number.
Back then, it was in March.
Ngakuleso sikhathi-ke kwakwenzeka lokhu ngo-March.
Now it's in January.
Manje-ke isiyenzeka ngoJanuwari leyo nto.
January the 3rd.
Yenzeka ngeyi-3 zikaJanuwari.
And back then, I think it was March the 20th.
Kuleso sikhathi-ke ibiyenzeka ngeyi-20 zikaMarch.
Okay, the second time there was a supermajority
Isikhathi sesibili-ke lapho-ke kwaba ne-supermajority.
was in the 40th Congress.
Kwakuyi-Congress yes-40.
The very next one.
Le elandelayo nje emva kwale.
And that too was won by the Republicans.
Naleyo-ke yanqotshwa futhi ama-Republican.
The third one
Eyesithathu-ke yona
was the 41st Congress.
kwakuyi-S41.
The very next one,
Yona-ke yayilandela le enye futhi
69
nayo.
to 71.
Kusuka ku-1869 kuya-1871.
And that also was Republican.
Futhi-ke yayinqotshwe ama-Republican nayo.
And then the fourth one
Eyesine-ke yona
was the 43rd Congress.
bekuyi-Congress yes-43.
So there was a 2-year gap where there was no
Kwadlula-ke
supermajority.
kwadlula-ke iminyaka emibili lapho-ke bekungena supermajority kuyo.
73 to 75.
Kusuka ku-73 kuya ku-75.
And that was also Republican.
Nalapho-ke kwaku ama-Republican.
So the Republicans won the first 4 double majority.
Ama-Republican-ke anqobe lawo kuqala ama-double majority.
Sorry, double supermajority.
Noma-ke ama-double supermajority.
And there's a big gap
Bese-ke kuba nesikhathi eside-ke
before
esidlulayo
the next one.
la phambi kokuthi uthole enye futhi.
This is the 74th Congress.
Le-ke yona-ke iba yi-Congress yes-74.
And this is 1935
Yona-ke iyenzakala ngo-1935
to 1937.
kuze kuyofika ku-1937.
And now it's the Democrats who win.
Manje-ke isinqotshwa ama-Democrats futhi.
So in the 19th century, it's all Republicans.
Ku-19th century-ke inqotshwa ama-Republican.
And now in the 20th century, it's the Democrats who have won.
Ku-20th century-ke inqotshwa futhi-ke ama-Democrats.
The next one was the 75th Congress.
Elandelayo-ke ile ye-75 i-Congress.
1937 to
Yona-ke
1939.
isuka ku-1937 kuya ku-1939.
That too was won by the Democrats.
Naleyo-ke yanqotshwa ama-Democrat.
Then the last one
Bese-ke eyokugcina
was the 89th Congress.
kwakule yes-89.
1965
Yona-ke yayisuka ku-1965
to 67.
kuyofika ku-1967.
And that too was won by the Democrats.
Naleyo-ke yanqotshwa-ke ama-Democrat.
So first it's the Republicans 4 times and the Democrats 3 times.
Qala-ke kube ama-Republican kane bese kuba ama-Democrats kathathu.
And I think 67 to 22 is 55 years.
Ngiyacabanga-ke u-67 kuya ku-22 iminyaka ewu-55.
I hope I've got all my numbers correct. I'm sure someone will analyze it and tell me if I've made any mistakes.
Ngiyathemba-ke ukuthi inombolo zami zihamba kahle. Uma ngenza iphutha ngiyacabanga khona uzongibonisa.
By the way,
Okunye-ke
we speak about the amendments,
sikhuluma-ke ngama-amendment.
and in 1935,
Ngalo nyaka ka-1935
a new amendment went into effect.
kwaba ne-amendment-ke efikayo noma
It
elethwayo.
was passed 2 years before in 1933.
Yaphasiswa-ke eminyakeni emibili edlulile ngo-1933.
The 20th Amendment.
Ile amendment yes-20.
I'll just put it here.
Ngizoyibeka lapho-ke.
1933.
Yaphasiswa ngo-1933-ke yona.
And this amendment said the following.
Le amendment-ke yona yayisho lokhu.
We're going to change the cycle from March to January.
Yayithi sizoshintsha manje-ke indlela yokuhambisa izinto ngo-March silethe
all it said.
ngo-January. Ibisho nje njalo nje kuphela.
Before that,
Phambi kwaloko-ke
the President and Congress both changed in March.
umongameli ne-Congress bezishintsha ngo-March zombili.
I said it was the 20th of March, but it's the 4th of March, the 4th.
Bengithi-ke mina ngiyi-20 zika-March kodwa kungeyi-4 zika-March kahle.
The 20th Amendment changed that.
I-20th Amendment yayitshintsha leyo
And
nto.
for Congress, it changed it to the 3rd of January, and for the President to the 20th of January.
Ku-Congress-ke yayiyisa-ke i-3 zika-January bese ku-President yayenza ngeyi-20 zika-January.
So they use a term in a 20th.
Ngeyi-20.
Between the election and the appointment of the new administration,
Phakathi kulesi sikhathi-ke phakathi kokuthi kuvotwe nalapho kuzongena labo bantu abavotelwe.
that time period is called the lame duck administration. Lame means a damaged leg, and we know what a duck is.
Lokho-ke ibizwa ukuthi i-lame duck. Lame isho ukuthi into ekhubazekile noma idada elikhubazekile.
So it's not doing anything.
Should ayikwazi ukwenza lutho ngaleso sikhathi.
They made that change from March to January to reduce that time by half.
Bayishintsha-ke leso sikhathi ukususa ku-March basisa ku-January ukuthi basenze sibe yi-half.
And also to ensure that if there was a problem,
Nokuthi-ke bakwazi ukwenza ukuthi uma kunenkinga
a problem with the presidential vote,
uma ukuvotelwa kuka-president kungahambanga kahle,
it would be the new Congress that dealt with it, not the old one.
kuzoba ile Congress entsha-ke elungisa lokho, hhayi le eyakudala.
Okay, let's summarize.
Manje-ke asizame ukufima konke.
For the Sunday law,
Kwi-Sunday law-ke
you either need a supermajority,
udinga i-supermajority
and then you can ignore the executive branch,
bese-ke angeke ube nendaba nomongameli.
or you need an executive branch and just a standard majority.
Udinga kodwa noma-ke udinga ubumongameli ne-majority nje ejwayelekile.
There have only been 7 supermajorities in the past.
kule sikhathi-ke noma lo wonke lo mlando odlulile kube nama-supermajority nje amathathu nje kuphela.
Four Republican in the 19th century and 3 Democrat in the 20th century.
Ama-Republican kwi-19th century namathathu kwi-20th century ama-Democrats.
So I just want to give some further information
Manje-ke ngifuna ukufaka nokunye lapho
on the presidency.
uma sikhuluma ngobumongameli.
So when we talk about this history,
Uma sizokhuluma ngalo mlando lo,
I hope I have this correct.
ya themba ukuthi ngiqondile la.
The Democrats had 7 presidents
Ama-Democrats-ke wona bewanama-president awu-7
and the Republicans had 13.
ama-Republican ana-13 wona.
And then in this history,
Bese-ke kulo mlando lo
there was 12 and 10.
kunabawu-12 ngapha bese abawu-10
So
ngapha.
these are the presidents.
Abo-president-ke labo.
So the Democrats
Manje-ke
had
ama-Democrat
19
bewana-19 makuphelele
and the Republicans had 23.
ama-Republican wona ana-23.
So the Republicans have more presidents from the beginning than the Democrats have had.
Ama-Republican-ke abanama-president amaningi kusukela ekuqaleni kunaloku okutholwe ama-Democrats.
Now, because we are all students of prophecy
Ngoba-ke sonke abafundi besiprofethi
and we all understand American history,
futhi sonke siyawuzwisisa umlando waseMelika,
especially when you consider these dates,
kakhulu uma ubuka ama-date lawa.
we all know that there's a problem with this data,
Siyazi-ke ukuthi kunenkinga-ke ngale data le.
a big problem that is staring us in the face.
Inkinga enkulu nje esibuka emehlweni nje.
So what is the problem?
Yini-ke leyo nkinga le?
What is the issue?
Yini le nkinga le sihlangana nayo?
It's how we identify the parties.
Ukuthi-ke siwabuka kanjani lamaqembu
Now,
lawa
you
noma
all
party lawa.
know your history well by now.
Niyazi-ke umlando wenu kahle-ke ngiyacabanga kulesi sikhathi.
And you already seen the problem.
Futhi-ke senize nayibona le nkinga lapho.
We said
Sithe thina
that the Republicans won all these 4 supermajorities, the only ones in the 19th century.
sathi ama-Republican anqobe wonke lama-supermajority wonke nje kwi-19th century.
And somehow in the 20th century, it got flipped and the Democrats won.
Bese ngapha-ke kwi-20th century kwaphenduka lokho kwaba ama-Democrats.
Now, you can all see these dates.
Sonke-ke ngiyacabanga ukuthi siyawabona
And you
lama-dates.
all know straight away
Futhi-ke niyazi-ke
that this is the post-Civil War era.
niyabona ukuthi lesi sikhathi lesiya esalandela emuva ukuthi kube ne-civil war.
So they've just come out of the Civil War.
Manje baqeda ukulwa le mpi le i-civil war.
And who won, the North or the South?
Manje-ke kwanqoba bani, i-North noma i-South?
The North won.
Kwanqoba i-North.
Depending on one's perspective,
Manje-ke kuya ngokuthi umuntu uyibuka kanjani.
which was the good side and which was the bad side.
Abobani-ke singathi yibo bebalungile futhi abobani singathi
I say that very
bebangalunganga.
simply
Leyo nto-ke ngiyisho ngikha ngaphezulu.
because Ellen White will say they're both bad.
Ellen White uyasho-ke uthi bobabili babebheda bonke.
But The thing that's bad about both sides is different.
Kodwa le nto ke ebhedayo kula maqembu amabili iyahlukana.
The South were in the wrong.
Laba bakwi-South ke bona beba-wrong.
They're not fighting for state rights.
Bebangalweli amalungelo wama-states.
They are fighting to keep slavery alive
Bebalwela ke ukuqhubekisa le nto yabo yokugqila noma ukugqilaza abantu.
because slavery is money.
Ngoba ke ukugqilaza abantu kunemali.
The North,
I-North yona
they don't go to war because they're against slavery.
abayi empini ngoba bafuna ukulwisa le nto yokugqila.
And that's the immoral issue that Ellen White targets.
Manje ke yiyo ke le nto le ebhedayo ngabo u-Ellen White ayivezayo.
So you all know about the issue of compromise.
Niyakhumbula nonke ke ngale nto le yokuba ndikindiki.
It was the North that were compromising before the war, not the South.
Bekuyilaba abakwi-North beba-compromise bendikindiki, hhayi laba abakwi-South.
Why were they compromising?
Kungani bebandikindiki be-compromise?
It wasn't about slavery.
Bebangenzeli ubugqila.
It was to keep the union together,
Bebazama ukugcina izwe limunye.
to stop the country from fragmenting.
Bebangafuni ke ukuthi isizwe siphuke phakathi.
The South said, if we can't keep slaves, we will separate from you and have our own country.
Laba abakwi-South ke bathi uma ningasivumeli ukuthi sibe negqila sizoshiya phansi lesizwe siyoba nesizwe sethu.
The North, in their duplicity and immorality,
Laba ke abaku-North ke ngobundikindiki babo nokungayenzi
said, we
izinto
don't care
kahle
about slavery, but you're not leaving.
bathi ke asinandaba nobugqila kodwa nina angeke nihambe.
It's against the law to divorce,
Bathi ke umthetho awuvumi ukuthi
and we will
ningasidivorce
stop you.
futhi ke sizoniphoqa.
And that's what the war was over.
Manje ke empini ke bekulwela lokho.
It's only halfway through
Kwenzeka nje phakathi kwaleyo mpi
when
ke
Lincoln says that the slavery issue now becomes part of the war narrative.
lapho ke uLincoln asho khona ke ukuthi le ndaba yokugqila nayo isiba ingxenye yaleyo mpi leyo.
So today,
Manje ke namhlanje
we all know very simply
sonke ke siyazi kalula nje
that the Democrats are good and the Republicans are on the wrong side.
ukuthi ama-Democrats ke alungile bese ama-Republican yibo ke abasehlangothini
You've heard
eli-wrong.
that there is talk of civil war happening.
Uzwile mhlambe ke nangale nkulumo leyo ukuthi kune-civil war impi le yenzekayo.
Whatever shape or form that takes
Noma ke
is not
kwenzeka
part of this story.
ukuthi kwenzeka ngeyiphi indlela ke akusiyiyo into engizama ukuyiveza la.
But the idea of framing what's happening in the United States as a civil war comes back to this history.
Kodwa ke le nto ke yokuveza lokhu kwenzeka eMelika kubizwe njenge-civil war kubuya kulesa sikhathi ke leso.
And in that history, the North and South were run by two different parties.
Kuleso sikhathi ke i-North ne-South ke beziqhutshwa amaphathi ke ahlukile.
The North
I-North ke yona
and the South.
ne-South futhi.
The North are good and the South are bad.
I-North ke ibiyibo abalungile bese i-South kuyibo ababhedayo.
The party that is in the North
Laba ke iqembu leli lase-North
are the Republicans,
beku ama-Republican.
and in the South It's the Democrats.
eSouth khona-ke bekuwama-Democrat.
So the Republicans are good and the Democrats are not good.
Ama-Republican leso sikhathi-ke bekuyibo abalungile bese ama-Democrats kuyibo ababhedayo.
A change happens.
Bese-ke kuba nalo shintsho lolu olwenzekayo.
Now, people mark that change differently.
Bantu-ke lolu shintsho lolo-ke balibeka endaweni ezihlukile.
Most commentators will mark the platform change or the flip
Abaningi-ke ababheka le ndaba-ke bakubeka lokhu kushintsha lokhu
how those two parties change their platforms
lento yokuthi lamaqembu amabili ashintshane ngendlela zawo.
Most people put it in the 1960s.
Abaningi bayibeka laphaya kuma-1960s.
And we know what this history is.
Yazi-ke ukuthi umuphi umlando lo.
This is the civil rights era.
Yileso sikhathi-ke sama-civil rights.
And they say that the civil rights issue made these two parties swap their ideology.
Ngathi-ke lento le yama-civil rights ukulwela kwamalungelo abantu abamnyama yiyo yayenza ukuthi lamaqembu ashintshe indlela abuka izinto ngayo.
I want to suggest that that is not quite correct if you look deeper into the history.
Ngifuna-ke ukutsho mina ukuthi leyo nto ayiqondanga kahle uma ubhekisisa kahle umlando ngokujula.
We all know Martin Luther King,
Sonke-ke siyamazi-ke uMartin Luther King.
who was the lead figure in the civil rights movement.
Uye-ke umuntu wayehambela phambili-ke kulempi yokulwela amalungelo abantu abamnyama.
The president in that history
Umongameli ngaleso sikhathi
is Johnson, Lyndon Johnson.
kwakuwumuntu ekuthiwa-ke uLyndon Johnson.
He is a Democrat.
Bekawu-Democrat-ke yena.
So the Democrats have a supermajority in both houses and they have the executive branch. They're in complete control.
Ama-Democrats-ke ngaleso sikhathi ane-supermajority kuma-house omabili futhi-ke anomongameli aphethe yonke nje ihulumende.
And when they sign this deal with King, I put it simply like that,
Uma-ke bezoletha lo mthetho lo basayine no-Martin Luther King, ngibeka-ke lula-ke mangisho njalo.
the Republicans stand in opposition to that.
Ama-Republican-ke ayaphikisana nalo.
And that's why most people mark it's in this history that the change happens.
Kungakho-ke abantu abaningi bathi-ke lolu shintsho lenzeke ngaleso sikhathi.
But I want to suggest it's a prior history.
Mina-ke kodwa-ke ngifuna ukusho ukuthi yenzeke kule minyaka le engaphambili.
It's in this history here that the change happens.
Ikulesi sikhathi lesi lapho-ke lolu shintsho lenzeka khona.
If you're American, you know what FDR stands for.
Uma-ke uwumuntu waseMelika uyazi ukuthi u-FDR umeleni.
It's the name of a president
Igama-ke lomongameli othize.
You might not agree that he was the best president, but everybody agrees he was the most significant president of US history.
Mhlawumbe angeke kusho-ke ukuthi upresident omuhle kunabo bonke, kodwa wonke umuntu uyavumelana ukuthi uye umongameli owabaluleka
Some people
kunabo
might say
bonke.
Washington, some people may say Lincoln for different reasons.
Abanye abantu bangathi mhlambe uGeorge Washington noma abanye bathi uAbraham Lincoln ngezizathu ezihlukene.
The first person was obviously the first, so he's famous.
Lo wokuqala-ke kwakuyi umongameli wokuqala kungako-ke edume kangaka.
And Lincoln because of the Civil War.
Bese-ke no Lincoln naye ngenxa ye-Civil War.
but it's Roosevelt that changes America.
Kodwa-ke yilo kuthiwa uRoosevelt-ke owashintsha iMelika.
He won 4 presidencies back to back.
Wanqoba-ke ubumongameli kane kulandelelana.
He served for 12 years.
Waba umongameli iminyaka ewu-12.
4 times 4 is 16, and 12 is less than that, of course.
U4 mawumphinda kayi-4 kuba u-16 ayilingani ne-12-ke.
He died very soon after he won the 4th presidency.
Washona-ke esaqeda ukunqoba okwesine.
He was a Democrat.
Umdemokrat-ke.
So in this history here,
Kulo mlando-ke lo,
he's the president in both of these histories.
uye-ke oba umongameli kuleyo mlando leyo emibili.
And so the Democrats have a supermajority for this history, and they have a Democratic president.
Manje-ke ama-Democrat-ke aba ne-supermajority kule mlando lemibili bese babe nomongameli futhi.
And what he got attacked on
Into-ke owaliswa ngayo
was the
yena-ke
same attack that Trump made against Biden.
yilento-ke le uTrump naye ayilwisela uBiden futhi
And Clinton.
noClinton futhi.
And what was Trump's argument?
Yini-ke lento-ke uTrump bekabalwisa ngayo?
That his opponents, the Democrats,
Lento-ke ukuthi labaphikisana nabo ama-Democrat
are not Democrats,
ukuthi akusiyi ama-Democrat,
they're socialists.
ama-socialist.
And why would he accuse them of being socialists?
Ngani-ke ebabiza ukuthi bangama-socialist?
Because they were concerned about the rights of the common person.
Ngoba bebalwela amalungelo-ke abantu abajwayelekile nje.
Not the rights or the needs of corporation or corporate America.
Hayi amalungelo noma iy'dingo zamabhizinisi nosomabhizinisi baseMelika.
So he would say that they're anti-capitalists, they're socialists.
Yena-ke makesho uthi balwisana ne-capitalism bangama-socialist.
The same accusation that was leveled against myself and Elder Tess.
Yafana-ke leyo nto leyo-ke nale kwashiwo yona ngathi nomina no-Elder Tess.
By our former leader back in 2018.
Yashiwo-ke umholi wethu osesukile ngo-2018.
I don't mention that because of hard feelings. I mention it is because it's a prophetic issue.
Angisho leyo nto-ke ngoba ngiphatheke kabi ngenxa yayo, kodwa ngisho ngoba ngifuna ukubonisa isiprofeto.
So, FDR.
Manje-ke u-FDR
he's the one that's going to reinvent the Democratic Party.
Uye-ke lo muntu-ke ozoshintsha iqembu leli lama-Democrat.
From being, which we will call the people who are on the wrong side, the people that are on the right side.
Ubasusa kulaba bantu beku abantu aba-wrong ubaletha ngapho ukuthi kube abantu aba-right manje.
He becomes a champion for the small person, the family.
Uba umuntu-ke olwela amalungelo alabantu nje abancane noma
not
imindeni.
corporate America.
Hayi kulwela osomabhizinisi.
We've just had the Great Depression.
Bekuqeda-ke ukuphela i-Great Depression lapho.
And he wants to take America out of that depression.
Futhi-ke bekafuna ukukhipha iMelika kuleyo depression leyo.
And his plan is something new.
Manje-ke indlela yakhe ukuthi ayenze lokho bekuyinto entsha.
He calls it the New Deal.
make uyibiza ukuthi i-New Deal.
Stop the rich getting richer and help the poor person at the bottom.
Asiyekeleni ukwenza ukuthi abantu abacebile baqhubeke bacebe sisize labantu abampofu.
Over his 12-year presidency,
Kule minyaka ke ewu-12 lapho ayaba
he
umongameli
completely
ngawo,
changed the nature and character of the United States.
washintsha ke isimilo nendlela yokusebenza yaseMelika.
He brought Medicare into effect.
Waletha lento ukuthi abantu bathole ezempilo.
Medicare is national health service paid by the government.
I-Medicare ke yilento yokuthi abantu bakhokhelwe ezempilo uhulumeni.
He would have had it for everybody, but they blocked that.
Bekafuna ukuthi itholwe umuntu wonke umuntu nje ke, kodwa ke bamvimba ukuthi angakwenzi lo.
So it only covers retired people.
Manje ke isisiza nje abantu nje kuphela abarethayarile.
Republicans were against it.
Ama-Republican bewangayifuni.
And for those who are not aware,
Kulabo ke abangazi,
the reason why there is not a national health system in the United States
isizathu ke sokuthi kungabi nendlela yezempilo ehamba
at its
isizwe
roots
sonke
is
eMelika.
an issue of racism.
Phansi ke ibangelwa yilento yokucwasa ngokwebala.
It's not an economic issue, it's a racist issue.
Akusiyinkinga yokuthi ayikho imali, kodwa into ebangwa yilento yokucwasa ngokwebala.
So there is a change
Manje ke kuba noshintsho
in the Democratic Party
kule qembu leli
from
lama-Democrats
the beginning to the end, from the 19th to the 20th century.
kusuka ekuqaleni ke kwi-19th ukuya kwi-20th century.
So if you go back here,
Uma ke uya lapho,
the Democratic Party, as we understand who they are,
i-Democratic Party njengoba thina siyazi,
is in fact the Republican Party of the 19th century.
yilo leli qembu leli lama-Republican le-19th century.
Big government,
Lo hulumende omkhulu,
not small government,
hhayi uhulumende
caring
omncane,
about the common person,
kunakekela labantu ke abajwayelekile,
not worrying about businesses,
kunganakwanga abosomabhizinisi,
high tax, not low tax.
ama-tax ke amaningi hhayi amancane.
The thing is, despite all the accusations,
Manje ke noma
the
kunale kuphikisana
Democrats
lokungaka,
handle the economy very well.
ama-Democrats ke yibona abaphatha ezomnotho kahle kakhulu.
In 2 years,
Kwiminyaka emibili,
Biden has reduced the deficit by half.
uBiden ulungise i-deficit
But like most
wayilungisa
Democrats,
ngehafu.
they don't trumpet this news.
Kodwa ke njengama-Democrats amaningi akusiyinto abayimemezayo leyo uma beyenzile.
PR or public relations, Democrats are very bad at.
Ekuzikhulumeleni ke ama-Democrats ke ayahluleka.
Public relations,
Lokhu ke ukuthi bazikhulumele.
they don't promote themselves and what they achieve.
Abamemezi ke uma benza le misebenzi le, uma benza okuhle.
In case I forget,
Uma ke ngingakukhohlwa lokhu,
Biden wanted to do what FDR did.
uBiden ke bekafuna ukwenza lokhu okwenze u-FDR.
MAGA said, "Make America great again."
IMAGA ke yasisho yona ithi asiyenzeni i-America ibe great again.
It caught on across the world.
Leyo nto ke kwaba yinto eyaziwa yiwonke umuntu emhlaba jikelele.
Biden,
uBiden yena,
his was
yena yakhe
BBB.
bekuyi-BBB.
And no one even understands what he's talking about.
Futhi akekho nomuntu owaziyo ukuthi ukhuluma ngani.
because they don't promote themselves properly.
Ngoba-ke abakwazi ukuzikhulumela kahle.
Build back better.
Bathi-ke build back better.
Build, construct.
Ukwakha-ke kangcono.
So he wanted to build America back better.
Yafuna ukwakha iMelika kabusha ingcono.
One says again and one says back.
Omunye-ke uthi futhi, omunye uthi emuva.
This back is talking about going back to the New Deal.
Uma-ke yena ethi kubuyele emuva, ukhuluma ngokubuyela emuva laphaya kwi-New Deal.
His plan got sabotaged
Iplan lakhe-ke azange laphumelela, livinjiwe.
by a Democrat.
Livinjwe omunye umdemokrati futhi.
And today,
Namhlanje-ke
his initiative has been decimated.
le nto yakhe bekafuna ukuyenza-ke ihlulekile.
So
Manje-ke
I think that's an important component of what the Democrats wanted to do.
ngicabanga-ke ukuthi yinto ebaluleke kakhulu kulezi zinto bezifuna ukwenziwa ama-Democrats.
And it's all been destroyed,
Kuyinto-ke emoshakele, isimoshakele
bringing us
manje.
to economic collapse and the Sunday law.
Manje-ke leyo nto isilethela lapho umnotho uwa khona futhi sizoba ne-Sunday law.
So the point I wanted to make in all of this
Iphuzu-ke bengifuna ukuliveza kuko konke lokho
is that these are not Republicans.
ukuthi konke lokhu akusiyo ama-Republican.
They're Democrats as we know them.
Namhlanje thina singasho sithi bekuwama-Democrats.
So in the whole of the history of the United States,
Manje-ke kumlando wonke waseMelika
only Democrats have won supermajorities. The Republicans have never won.
ama-Democrats nje kuphela ake anqoba noma aba nama-supermajority. Ama-Republican wona akaze nje.
When you play by the rules,
Uma-ke izinto zihanjiswa ngendlela,
when you play fairly,
uma izinto ziqhutshwa ngendlela ekuyiyona,
the Democrats always win.
ama-Democrats yiwo anqobayo sonke isikhathi.
The Republicans know this.
Ama-Republican ayazi lokho futhi.
And over the last few decades,
Futhi-ke kule minyaka esidlule, le minyaka esidlule,
they've worked out this plan that is now being executed.
bayenze leli plani-ke esilibona selisebenzeka
If you
namhlanje.
can't win fairly, you
Ukuthi-ke
have to cheat.
uma ungakwazi ukuthi unganqoma ngendlela ekuyiyona, kumele manje-ke uqale ukurobha.
ISL is only one component to that.
Le nto-ke ye-ISL enye-ke indlela le yokuthi bayenze lokho.
This is how they intend to destroy democracy.
Yiyo-ke indlela yabo-ke le yokuthi babulale, bachithe idemocracy.
You see that the Republicans have the majority of the presidents,
Ngoba uyabona-ke ukuthi ama-Republican yiwo abanama-president amaningi.
when you convert all these numbers to what they should be,
Uma-ke uyilungisa uyibeka ngale ndlela le kumele kube yiyo,
it's not 19 and 23.
akubi i-19 ne-23.
It ends up being 25 and 17.
Gcina-ke seyiba u-25 no-17.
So even the number of presidents, the majority has been Democrats.
Ngisho nama-president-ke since kunqoba
This
esikhathini
is why
esiningi
January the 6th
ama-Democrats.
happened.
Kungakho-ke kwenzeke lokhu ngoJanuwari ngeyi-6.
In order to take the administration,
Ukwenzela ukuthi-ke banqobe babuse,
you have to lie and cheat your way.
kufuneka-ke ukhuluma amanga bese uyarobha.
Because if you do things the honorable way, the
Ngoba
Republicans will always lose.
ngoba uma izinto zenziwa ngendlela ekuyiyona, ama-Republicans ahlezi enqotshwa.
So today I've given you historical information, I'm going to call it evidence,
namhlanje ke nginikeze ke ulwazi ke noma ubufakazi obuya emlandweni
of what everybody knows.
into eyaziwa wonke umuntu.
Those who understand history know.
Labo ke abalandela ke umlando bayakwazi lo.
And now you do too.
Nawe ke usuyakwazi lo.
The Republicans can never bring a Sunday law.
Ama-Republican awakwazi ukuthi angaletha i-Sunday law.
They will never get a supermajority.
Angeke bakwazi ukuthi bangaba ne-supermajority.
And if they worked on the popular vote, they would never even get the presidency.
Futhi ke uma bebaya ngokuthi wonke umuntu avote ngamunye bengeke bakwazi nokuthi banqobe
So they have to lie and
nebu-president.
cheat.
Kanjalo ke kungako kumele bakhuluma amanga futhi barobhe.
We wouldn't call it that.
Angeke thina ke sikubize lokho.
We would not.
Angeke siyibize kanjalo.
The way it's framed
Indlela ke ebekwa ngayo
is by discussing the Constitution and what those words mean.
Yiloko ukuthi bakhulume nge-constitution nokuthi lawo mazwi alapho asho ukuthini.
How readest thou?
Ukuthi ufunda kanjani.
Do we want to do a thus saith the writers,
Ukuthi ngifuna ukuthi nenze lokho kubhalwe yilabantu
or try to
bebabhala
understand what they were talking about?
noma uzama ukuzwisisa ukuthi bebakhuluma ngani.
Do we want to be literal readers,
Ukuthi nifuna ukufunda into njengoba injalo,
mechanical readers,
noma ukufunda into njengoba ibhaliwe nje,
or intelligent dispensational readers?
noma ke ukuyifunda ngendlela ehlakaniphile ebhekayo nesikhathi.
We call it dispensationalism.
Thina ke uma siyibiza i-dispensationalism.
The term that they use is
Igama
the
ke
living constitution.
ebalisebenzisayo bona ke ilele lithi ke i-constitution ephilayo.
A constitution that grows and matures, which means it changes.
I-constitution ekhulayo etshintshayo kusho ukuthi ke iba ngcono
That's an
ngesikhathi.
abomination to those on the other side.
Laba ke abakulelinye ihlangothi ke bayibona kuyinto embi kakhulu leyo.
The conservative judges.
Laba ke abehluleli
They say you
bama-conservative
can't just make things up,
bathi ke awukwazi ukuthi nje uzivezele izinto nje.
and that's not what is being done.
Futhi ke akusiyiyo into enziwayo le.
It's using the constitution, using the law and reading it intelligently.
Ukusebenzisa i-constitution noma ufunda umthetho usebenzise ngendlela ehlakaniphile.
Alito said,
Uye wathi ke u-Alito,
in the constitution, when it said people,
laphaya kwi-constitution uma ithi abantu
it meant white men,
ibikhuluma ngamadoda esilisa
white important men.
noma amadoda esilisa amhlophe abalulekile.
It didn't mean people of color or women.
Ibingakhulumi ngabantu abamnyama noma abantu besifazane.
And therefore, when we talk about abortion rights,
Uma ke sizokhuluma ngamalungelo e-abortion,
subject of law,
into ke mayelana nomthetho,
you have to use your reference frame or your frame of reference, which is the constitution.
mele uye uyibheka laphaya ke ku-constitution.
We, on the
Thina
left,
ke ngapha ngaku-left
say we can read.
sithi siyakwazi ukufunda.
We know what history, what the history was.
Siyazi ukuthi umlando ubuthini.
We know when it said people, it meant white men.
Siyazi ukuthi ngenkathi mayithi abantu bekhuluma ngabelungu besilisa.
But you can't do that today.
Kodwa ke awukwazi ukuthi ungakwenza lokho namhlanje.
Because people includes everybody.
Ngoba namhlanje abantu bafaka wonke umuntu.
And the people on the right say, you can't do that. You can't make it up.
Laba abantu abangapha ngaku-right ke bona bathi hayi awukwazi ukwenza kanjalo, awukwazi ukuzikhandela nje into ezinjalo.
If you want to, make an amendment.
Uma ufuna ukuyenza leyo nto, shintsha umthetho.
The new amendment says when it talks about people, it means all people.
Iyasho ke i-amendment entsha ithi uma ithi abantu ikhuluma ngawo wonke umuntu.
And there is no way an amendment is ever going to happen in today's climate.
Futhi ke akwenzeki lokho ukuthi ngaba ne-amendment esimeni sanamhlanje.
And that's the battle.
Iyo ke impi leyo.
It's what has forced this movement to reevaluate its ethics.
Iyo ke into eyenze ukuthi lo movement uzibhekisise kahle ukuthi umeleni.
Our worldview has to be shaped by inspiration,
Indlela ke esibuka izinto ngayo mele ihambiselane nomthetho.
not a mechanical, robotic reading of God's word.
Hayi ke indlela nje yokufunda izwi njengoba linjalo.
Which is always manipulative.
Into ke ehlezi ke
It
inobuqili
has to be
phakathi.
read intelligently, which is honestly and fairly.
Funeka sifunde ngendlela ekuyiyona enokuthembeka phakathi nokuhlakanipha.
And that's why we're at this place now.
Ingakho ke sikulesi sikhathi esibuso manje.
History tells us what will happen in the future.
Umlando ke uyasitshela ukuthi kuzokwenzakalani kulesi sikhathi esizayo.
There will never be a Sunday law.
Angeke kusaba ne-Sunday law.
Good will continue.
Kuzoqhubeka kunokuhle.
So to make a change,
Kuze ke kube noshintsho.
you have to define how you will read law.
Funeka ushintshe indlela le ubuka umthetho ngayo.
You read it like a conservative Adventist
Ukuthi ubuka nje nge-conservative Adventist
in an immature way,
ngendlela ke ekungasiyona.
a literal thus saith the law.
Ukufunda izinto njengoba uzibona.
And the mess that Adventism is in is the same mess that the Republicans are in.
Inkinga ke ehlangabezana nama-Adventist iyafana nale ehlangabezana nama-Republican.
They will win.
Bazonqoba yebo.
They will pass the Sunday law.
Bazoyiletha i-Sunday law.
But to achieve it, they have to manipulate the word.
Kodwa ke ukuze bakwazi ukuyiletha le Sunday law kufuneka bashintshe izwi.
Not God's word,
Hayi izwi likaNkulunkulu.
the words of the Constitution.
Kodwa ke amazwi e-Constitution.
They have to read it in a warped, distorted, literal way.
Funeka ke bayibhale ngendlela noma bayifunde ngendlela engasiyona.
And they will win their goal.
Futhi ke siyazi ukuthi bazophumelela bayenze intando yabo.
That event is imminent,
Siyabona ke ukuthi leso sigameko sisondele kakhulu.
whether it's 2 years or 6.
Ukuthi kuzoyenzeka kule minyaka emibili ezayo noma kule minyaka yo-6 elandelayo.
The event that we have been predicting and foretelling is on the very doorstep of
Lesigameko
history.
enkade sikhuluma ngaso nasi ke sesila phambi kwethu sizokwenzeka.
In this camp meeting,
Kule camp meeting le
I hope I've given sufficient evidence for you
ngiyathemba ke ukuthi ngiphane ngobufakazi
to demonstrate
obuphelele.
both the importance of the executive branch
Ukubonisa ukubaluleka kwe-executive branch.
and, if not the tool, an important tool that the Republican Party is using to achieve its goal.
Uma kungasiso isisetshenziswa kuyoba isisetshenziswa esibalulekile ukuthi i-Republican Party iyazi ukuthi yenze intando yayo.
History and the weight of evidence is against them.
Umlando ke nebufakazi kuphikisana nabo.
So to cheat death, they have to make an agreement with death.
Manje ukwenzela ukuthi bakwazi ukuphikisana nokufa, kufuneka benze isivumelwano nokufa.
The death of their ideology, not of a human being.
Hayi ukufa komuntu kodwa ukufa kwendlela yabo yokucabanga.
We've run out of time.
Sesiphelelwe isikhathi.
What I would still like to put into place,
Into ke engifisa ukuthi ngayiletha mhlambe noma ngiyiveze,
unless my thoughts and ideas go in a different direction,
ngaphandle kokuthi mhlambe imicabango yami ingahamba ngenye indlela,
is to discuss further our relationship to the Levites and Nethinims.
ngithanda ke ukuthi ngingachaza kabanzi ubudlelwano bethu phakathi kwethu nama-Levites nama-Nethinim.
The last camp meeting, I said that there is enough information that we need to reevaluate our position.
Kule camp meeting edlulile ke ngiye ngasho ngathi kunolwazi oluningi elibonisa ukuthi kumele sibuke kabusha imicabango yethu ngale ndaba.
What our relationship with those two parties looks like.
Ukuthi ubudlelwano bethu nalamaqembu amabili kubuya kanjani.
We are coming together,
Sizohlangana yebo,
just like the Confederacy of Evil,
njengoba nalaba abekwiqembu elingalunganga behlangana.
spiritualism, Protestantism, Catholicism.
Kuhlangana spiritualism, Protestantism ne-Catholicism.
I quote from the Great Controversy.
Ngithatha kwi-Great Controversy leyo nto.
I'm not suggesting that individual people in those groups are evil or bad.
Angizami ukusho ke ukuthi abantu lapho kulamaqembu babi.
But I think we need to discuss more about the relationship that we have with those parties.
Kodwa ke ngicabanga ukuthi kufuneka sibukisise kabanzi ubudlelwano bethu nalabo bantu.
So, having said all of that,
Manje ke uma sesikuvezile konke lokho,
I want to thank you for all joining us.
ngifuna ukunibonga nonke ke ukuba nathi.
And I hope that each of us now have a clearer understanding
Futhi ngiyathemba ukuthi sonke ke sizwisisa kabanzi
of where we are going and what is happening.
ukuthi siyaphi nokuthi kwenzakalani.
And even though the following is not connected to our study,
Noma ke lokho kulandelayo kungahambiselani nesifundo sethu.
and I'm not saying it's a prophetic issue,
Futhi angisho ukuthi kuyinto emayelana noma ehambiselana nesiprofeto.
but I don't know if you've all heard,
Kodwa ke angazi ukuthi nizwile yini.
you all know of Nancy Pelosi.
Niyamazi ke uNancy Pelosi ngiyathemba.
Her husband was recently attacked in their home
Umyeni wakhe ke uye wahlaselwa endlini yabo,
with a hammer,
washaywa ngesandu.
and he's in hospital, seriously ill.
Usesibhedlela manje ke uyagula.
I think it would be
Kazizwa kahle.
good if in your private prayers you put him before the Lord.
Ngiyacabanga ke ukuthi ngaba into enhle ukuthi uma ukhuleka naye umkhulekele.
Someone who has been attacked because of his wife's political position.
Umuntu ke lo ohlaselwe ngenxa yendlela noma indlela leyo umnkosikazi
This is
wakhe
just a
acabanga ngayo.
foretaste of things to come.
Into ke lesibonisayo ke izinto ezizosuke zenzeke kusukela manje.
Thank you for your time and your companionship.
Ngiyabonga ngesikhathi senu nobudlelwano benu.
Let's pray.
Singavala ngomkhuleko.
Holy God, we thank you for your watch care over us.
uNkulunkulu ingcwele siyabonga ngokusigcina.
As we see the great sweep of history,
Njengoba ke sibona ukwenzeka
If
komlando
this was a fair world,
uma ke bekuwumhlaba ohamba kahle lo,
if people followed the rule of
uma
law,
abantu bebahamba noma bephila ngomthetho,
if they were reasonable and fair,
kube abantu bacabanga kahle futhi bayathembeka,
then we would know that there could never be a Sunday law.
siyazi ke uNkulunkulu ukuthi bengeke kube neSunday law.
We now understand the mechanism by which that law will be implemented.
Sesiyabona namanje ke ukuthi lo mthetho uzolethwa kanjani.
Not that we believe that there is a specific law.
Hayi ukuthi sikholelwa ukuthi kunomthetho othize.
We know it has no relationship to Sunday.
Siyazi ukuthi ke awunabudlelwane neSunday.
We know you understand what our prayer is.
Siyazi ke ukuthi uyazwisisa umkhuleko wethu ukuthi uthini.
Help us to see how easy it is for humanity to be manipulated and used.
Nceda ukuthi sibone ukuthi kunzima kulula kanjani ukuthi abantu badukiswe basetshenziswe.
Both our leaders and the common person.
Abaholi bethu nabantu nje abajwayelekile.
If people followed the constitution properly and fairly,
Uma abantu bebalandela i-constitution ngendlela ekuyiyona,
you have shown us what the results would be.
usibonisile ukuthi imiphumela ibiyoba njani.
A truly glorious land
Bekuzoba yizwe eliyilona elihle ngempela.
where peace and freedom would reign.
La khona bekuzoba ke nenkululeko nokuthula.
And like ancient Israel,
Bese
would be
ke
a beacon for the rest of the world.
njenge-Israel yamandulo bekuzovezela ke abantu noma umhlaba wonke.
Help us to trace from cause to effect.
Ncede ukubona izinto kusuka ku-cause kuya kwi-effect.
So we can see the death of democracy.
Sizokwazi ukubona ukufa kwe-democracy.
We can understand its cause
Sibone ke imbangela
and the direction in which it will take us.
nokuthi ke izohamba kanjani.
We thank you that we understand these things,
Siyabonga ukuthi siyazwisisa lezi zinto.
that you keep shining your light upon your people.
Nokuthi uyaqhubeka ukhanyise ukukhanya kwakho kubantu bakho.
Guide us and bless us, we ask in Jesus' name.
Sihole ke usibusise siyacela ngegama likaJesu.
Amen.
Amen.
I want to thank everybody for joining us. Farewell.
Siyabonga nonke ke, nisaleni kahle.